Howdy, y'all. This is David Lee Kreitz, out here at the Arboretum again. I just finished my Facebook Live where I discussed both two books by Napoleon Hill. One was Think and Grow Rich, and the other one was this, How to Raise Your Own Salary. And I'm going to upload that as well, so it'll be in my my YouTube channel. This time I'm focusing on straight line leadership. And I have to say that as much as every other leadership development book that I've ever read by anyone, including things like Think and Grow Rich, as much as I've enjoyed or learned from or was edified by all of those combined, this book may actually trump all of that. It's taking a completely different tack from everything else that I've read. Things. the deal with straight line leadership is you've got point A and you've got point B, and of course the fastest way, most direct way, is a straight line. And it talks about how some of us, because we don't really know where we're coming from or what's going on, that we kind of circle around point B, and some of us kind of zigzag because we don't have full direction on what it is that we need to do. This actually almost immediately it shakes up the paradigm a little bit, because it starts off by saying if you're the trip is not a physical one. You start off by saying, I'm broke and I need to get to a point where I've got $1 million. Well, so point A is me being broke, and point B is me having $1 million in my account. And so you're thinking, I have a valid point A, that's today, broke, and I have a valid point B, and that's when the day comes and $1 million in my account. But the problem is, and I'm speaking from the perspective of straight line leadership. The problem is, it's not a physical point A that you're in. Your point A is a mindset. It's decisions that you've made, it's thoughts that you've had, it's things that you've been thinking that have brought you to this point. And this point today is you're broke, or you have $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever, I don't know. You have reached this point because of the mindset you've had, and that's brought you to here. I've heard that in a number of different places, and a number of different leadership seminars and books and talks and things, that it's the decisions that you've made that have brought you to where you are. You are where you are because of the thoughts that you've had or whatever. I've heard this before. I've heard it a number of times, and so this isn't a new doctrine. It's just always been there. But focusing on the point A not as a specific spot. It's today, the 1st of July, and I'm broke. And point B, which is somewhere out here, the 1st of July 2020, and I've got $1 million. Instead of focusing on those, everything he's talking about is the mindsets that you have that get you moving along. And by focusing on it at that level, a lot of the goals that you have and the tasks that you have, those change, because from what I've read so far, and I think I'm 19 chapters into the 50-something chapters in the book, and you can see it's not a huge book. I mean, it's 200 and something pages, 220 pages. The average chapter is 3 to 5, maybe 6 pages long. But the tasks that you have that are going to get you from A to B, they may not be physical tasks. In fact, they probably aren't so much physical tasks as they are mindsets. You have to think in a certain way to move you along. Otherwise, we're in the same boat that we've been before. That is, you've got point B and you're here at point A, and you start doing things, and everything you're doing seems to be giving you activity, but you're never getting any closer to A, and so you're just like kind of circling point A, and you're just never getting anywhere because you're just circling it. You're busy, but you're not accomplishing anything. And so he's teaching mindsets. How do you get a specific mindset to get over this roadblock? How do you get a mindset to get over this kind of a situation? And the more I was thinking about that, the more I realized that, there's things in my life like, I was in a caustic and toxic work environment, and that was just sucking the energy out of me, and I was on disability for a little over 2 months because of an accident that I was in, and I got laid off when I returned to work, and it was like this relief that when I got laid off, because the environment was so toxic, and I kept blaming the toxic environment. I kept blaming the people that were there. Not all of the people. A lot of the people were very good. I kept blaming that, when in actuality, what kind of a numbskull was I to even stay there? I should have left 2 years earlier. I should have been gone for so long that I forgot I even worked there. It was my fault that I was in a toxic environment. There's just toxic people out there. There are people out there that will make your life miserable if they get a chance. It's my fault that I gave them the chance. It's my fault that I stayed there long enough for it to cause me health problems. It's my fault that I stayed there long enough that I was having blood pressure issues and stress issues and not sleeping, and that's all on me. And realizing that, coming to terms with that, is something that straight line leadership kind of opened up in my head. Once that whole concept opened up, then I was able to see the point A I was in. I now know point A, and I know what got me here. I still know what point B is. I still have it out here. I know where I want to go. But now I know where I am. And since I know where I am, I have a better idea of the kinds of things I need to do to get to point B. Now, my current online business mentor, Zach, he's read this book. In fact, the reason I'm reading it is because in his training, he has suggested it so many times that you almost feel guilty for not going and reading it, and to a certain extent, that's kind of why I got it and started reading it in the first place. But the insights that I've gained just from the way he's wording this, I'm not even sure I could pronounce the name. There it is. Knock yourself out. Dusan Jukirk. We'll go with that. I see the sun is coming out, so it's kind of making shadows on my face. But the insights that I've already been gleaning from the book have gotten me to a point where I'm starting to realize some of these things, and now that I'm realizing it, I'm able to take the training that Zach Crawford is offering, and I'm able to move forward with it in a way that I wasn't before I read the book. So there's a couple of times when you read a book and it changes you. You might read the book and and it doesn't change you at all, and 3 years from now you read it and it's the right time. Well, this is the right time for me, and I'm thinking it may be the right time for some of you. Straight line leadership. You really should get this book, and you really should start looking at it. You should start reading it and taking it seriously. It can definitely help a lot of it can help a lot with your goal setting. It doesn't do any good to set a goal if you don't have a clue where you're coming from. And if you don't know where point A is, you're just going to circle point B and never get there. And that's the premise of the book. Now that I'm a little better into the book and I've got a little more understanding, like I said, I'm 19 chapters into it. The message is coming through fairly clear. One point that I'll bring out here is that with my dyslexia, sometimes it's difficult to I guess I don't read the same way as you normals do. It takes a little more. So the first time I read through a chapter, and thankfully they're only 3 to 5, maybe 6 pages long. First time I read through the chapter, I just read through it for comprehension. The second time I read through it, I highlight, and then the third time I read through it, I'm actually then copying the notes across that I need, so that I have something easier to study, and so I can look through this and be reminded what it was. And so I'm having to read each of these chapters 3 times, which, I mean, it's not unusual. That's the way I have to read every new book. And so I'm investing the time, and this investment is returning fairly significant dividends. And so once again, I suggest that you look at doing the same. If you think this has been valuable for you, then I'd appreciate it if you'd click on the like button and maybe share this with folks that you think could use the same thing. You know somebody who's starting a business, you know somebody who's trying to refocus their life, you know somebody who's working on building something, and maybe they're frustrated with where they are and they're not really sure how to get to where they want to go. This would be a great book to suggest to them. Okay, y'all have a happy.